Another video of the FGC on NBC. Actually, not another cancel Clayton video without actually watching the full video. If you like the videos, like, sub, slowly comment, share, support the channel if you want. I appreciate it. Thanks. Today, I want to talk about I had an epiphany, and it was about the overly radical LGBTQ quarter circle forward plus 3 punches. You know what I mean? Versus the overly radical right, overly conservative, religious kind of side. Right. And of course, in the middle, we probably got the kind of fucking hippie person that is just, they, whatever, right? But, obviously, they both have some good and bad. If we think about the foundation of it, obviously, I've said many times before, the LGBTQ, basically, the overly radical, is basically the exact same thing that we used to say about, the overly radical religious person when we were growing up. You know what I mean? A lot of times the overly radical, super religious person was often the most evil and corrupt deep down, right? And that's totally what the LGBTQ overly radical members are now, right? The holier than thou LGBTQ person who is secretly the most evil and conniving and fucked up. They literally, really are, they are a cult now, right? What is supposed to be for good is now used for evil, right? And that's just like religion, like I said, right? So in a way, they're similar, right? They're both something that is supposed to be for good, acceptance, loving one another. But ultimately, you have the overly radical sides. The most vocal sides are often the most outspoken. And sadly enough, the more holier than thou people are often the more, corrupt, right? And I think the difference, though, and I had this epiphany, right? The difference is, though, that although we can see the overly radical, say, religious side, and, we got little Moses Pikachu there, you know what I mean, parting the waters, whatever. It's like, okay, we know no one's parting water. God isn't, Jesus wasn't dying, coming back to life, all this kind of bullshit, right? You know what I mean? But the delusional side of the LGBTQ, besides being ridiculous, is actually kind of funny while being terrifying, right? I mean, let's be honest, right? So, I mean, this comes up because, and people are, I know that my haters are going to be like, oh, Clayton, whatever. Like, just like they tried to say that I hate transgender people because of that Bridget thing, which was not what those videos were about at all. And coincidentally enough, like I said, I'm friends and have her number, one of the more famous transgender people on the internet, right? You know what I mean? Where I do the cutoff part is once people start doing the whole fucking non-binary shit and they don't even want to admit they're a human being, that is some fucked up and weird shit, right? And I was just thinking about this epiphany of how, one side at least you can actually laugh at and is kind of funny in the delusion is because I've been getting, I'm sure like a lot of people, you get different kind of ads on YouTube for things. And I've been getting a lot of Matt Walsh stuff, right? And you know what I mean? I don't care about the whole religious side. Like once people start talking about a lot of this religious shit, it's like, dude, no, I don't give a fuck about that, right? But inevitably, for better or worse, a lot of the times, the most vocal people that are willing to speak up about something are the more radical kind of members, so to speak. But you see that Matt Walsh thing, that what is it to be a woman, and you see it, and it's, some of the stuff is legitimately terrifying, right? And it's funny, right? You know what I mean? And again, I'm not as hardcore as that guy about the transgender shit, whatever, you know what I mean? Because obviously, I don't care. Once you get to the non-binary shit, that's when it's just like, okay, you guys are just, making up excuses, right? Like, oh, I'm this, that, this, that, blah, blah. It's like, come on. Every human being has a more potentially, let's say if I'm a male, obviously I'm a male, but has a more, maybe traditionally sort of somewhat feminine aspect or something like that. You know what I mean? Or every female can have a somewhat, maybe an aspect of them that is more maybe traditionally masculine. It doesn't mean that you're actually a male or a female, like, oh, I'm this, that day, this, that day. That shit is just weird. And then you have some people that like, oh, I'm not even a human, I'm an animal. I mean, you got to watch this shit. And of course, I've had so many bad experiences with the LGBTQ throughout my life. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? It's like, even if one side, the side attacking the other side is the quotation mark, so to speak, the more radical side of the right attacking the radical left side, sadly, sometimes the most vocal people are going to be those anyway. And when you see this, it's like, man, if you can't say what a woman is, if you're talking about kids doing all this kind of stuff, dude, I mean, I feel like that's like not even a hot take, dude. Like a kid does still think Santa Claus is real. You don't think that that's kind of weird? I mean, there's got to be a little more thought process into that. And then people think they're animals. I just automatically think to that video game shit. Guy gets caught. Is he a guy? Who knows what he's fucking identifying as now? Guy gets caught cheating in a video game contest for money. His excuse is he's a furry who poops and pees his pants. Has the audacity to say that he has the same health problems as me. And I'm like, what's your health problem? Oh, he's a furry who poops and pees his pants. Shows the delusion, you know what I mean, of the overly radical left. And then later changes, I'm not a furry, I'm a tanuki. Whatever the fuck that means. You know what I mean? Like, people thinking they're animals, people thinking they're not human beings is fucking weird. But at least we can laugh at that, right? And I think that's why I got to call out the LGBTQ more so. And of course, and the thing is, people forget, I have made videos when I talk more deeper kind of like psychological stuff about me not being religious, right, anymore, despite being brought up religious. You know, I just got to the point, all the stuff happened to me in my life, you know what I mean, the dying stuff, etc. And I'm like, man, if I keep praying to God to save me, I'm going to die like this, right? And another example I can give is I do have more very right religious people. I do sometimes get messages from them, right? Like, oh, Clayton, you know, Jesus still loves you. If you ever want to come back to being religious, Jesus loves you and he'll always love you. The whole reason you had a bad life and you spend your life in and out of a hospital is because Jesus wants to see how strong you are, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, fuck me. Okay, that sounds absolutely fucking retarded. Now, the overly radical LGBTQ member who messages me, well, we've seen it. Hey, unless you have sex with me, I'm going to say you hate transgender people. Like what? These are the kind of, those are the kind of messages I get. I mean, does that make you think overly radical religious person, when I get random messages from them about my videos, oh, Clayton, Jesus loves you. You're just sick because he's trying to see how strong you are, blah, 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 blah. That's why he has so many bad things happen to you, because he wants to see how strong you are and see if you finally come back to God. And it's like, okay, you're an idiot. Thank you. Goodbye. You know what I mean? We have those memes. Don't run from the Lord. Don't run from the Lord. You know what I mean? When you see the overly radical LGBTQ person, it's like, oh, anytime they do so much fucked up shit and they default to, oh, I'm LGBTQ. You hate transgender people? Oh, you hate me because I'm non-binary? I can't think of me ever having a conversation with a religious person and then being like, oh, you hate Jesus? You hate Jesus? You hate Jesus? Is that why you're saying this? Now, of course, I'm sure they exist. You know what I mean? I'm not saying that there's probably no one that exists, because, of course, we know that religion is, of course, sadly responsible for a lot of like wars in the world, right? So, of course, we know that, that exists, but there's no doubt. It's a fact that, the LGBTQ, look at how much harassment I have gotten throughout the years. Pretty clear-cut difference in how they treat me because I didn't want to have sex with a transgender member of the community. The LGBTQ, using that I did more than them in a video game, so started hate campaigns trying to say that I tried to get gay people to kill themselves. It doesn't even make any fucking sense, right? And they've literally gotten caught planning it. Like, it's just, so again, the Matt Walsh thing, I looked at that, what it is to be a woman, or, what is a woman? And the thing is, obviously he's more radical than me, you know what I mean? Because I'm not religious at all. And, he's got more of the transgender kind of stuff that doesn't bother me, whatever. But when you talk about, the kid stuff is definitely, the kid stuff is like, man, I don't know. Kids do think that Santa Claus is real. That's true, right? But when you go into the non-binary stuff, people think they're animals and everything like that. Like, dude, come on, dude. One side is actually funny to laugh at when you see how fucking ridiculous they are and nonsensical. And of course, I've talked so many times about these topics about Americans have no idea how fucking free they are to other countries. You know what I mean? Like, dude, other countries, like, do you guys actually travel and talk to other people that are not in your own echo chamber? Go to other countries, or at least talk to some other people from other countries that are not in your echo chamber, and you will see America is a fucking joke. They joke about you. I can tell you, you know, I'm not going to say who it was because she was saying some stuff she shouldn't say, but like kind of like not really good stuff. You should see the amount of disgust that some foreigners have for Americans in the LGBTQ. Like this one girl, I mean, she was saying that they should bring back stoning, basically. I was like, Jesus fucking Christ, like, you shouldn't say that. That's fucked up, obviously, right? But Americans thinking they are not free in America. You know, Americans can call themselves a fucking milkshake. I'm a milkshake. My pronoun is slurp and yum, or whatever. You know what I mean? And again, but you'll see overly radical LGBTQ members say they're not free enough in America and they're being held down. And it's like, bro, you better pray you don't go to some of these other, you know, other countries. You know what I mean? Or, you know, you better pray that you're around your same echo chamber, because a lot of these people do not like you, dude. Even in America, you know, people are scared to say it. But when I go out and I talk to random people, dude, not everyone is super pro non-binary. You can't admit you're a human being anymore. You know what I mean? And I even had a conversation recently, right? And I was talking to a girl. One girl's a little older. One girl, she just turned 20 or something like that. And I was talking to the 20-year-old girl. And I was like, I don't know if you're going to want to talk to me because you look like you're woke. I told her, I was like, you look like you're woke. And I'm going to be honest, dude. Your vibe, it's like making me afraid, right? Because I'm not like that, dude. I'm like, I grew up a nerd. And of course, one of the reasons it bothers me is because it's like, it's like fucked up, the nerd community, right? Because the nerd community is so delusional. They think they're being held down now when they don't realize it's cool to be a nerd. And I've said before, so many people, you know, especially again, overly radical LGBTQ people, they'll use this depression excuse, or, you know, I feel like I'm an outcast. People don't like me, or I don't like who I am. It sucks to not like who you are, but that is not LGBTQ exclusive. You know what I mean? I think you would be hard pressed to find anyone in this world who has always been 100% comfortable with themselves. And if you actually think that you are the only person that has never been comfortable with who they are as a person, it just shows your fucking delusion, right? You know what I mean? Again, it's ridiculous, but that 20-year-old girl I was talking to, I'm like, man, I'm afraid to talk to you because you look woke, and I'm not overly woke, dude. I'm a nerd. I'm like one of the few nerds that is going to fucking call you other nerds out. You guys are crazy. And, you know, we were all talking. She's like, oh, no, I have a transgender, you know, they have a transgender co-worker, whatever. And they're like, oh, they were always just changing their gender that day, whatever gender they wanted to be for that day, for an excuse for their shitty behavior. You know what I mean? Oh, I'm going to act like this today because, you know, I got called out on something. Oh, I'm going to change my gender that day. I'm going to be non-binary this day. And she's like, it is fucking ridiculous. Now, of course, I was surprised because she said she just like turned 20 or something. But, you know, it just goes to show you, it's not just like an older demographic. You know what I mean? I talk to younger people too when I'm out too. And it's kind of like, yeah, on the down low. You know what I mean? I said, I've been talking to one person and she's like, geez, don't Clayton, your voice is so loud. People are going to hear us. And I'm like, I don't fucking care. You know what I mean? Am I saying anything that's untrue? you know what I mean? Like, people are afraid to like actually admit. And I think because you have this idea that the only ones that think that the LGBTQ is become an overly radical cult is someone who is on the right. How many times do you hear the people like, oh, do you vote for Donald Trump? All this kind of bullshit. Are you a Republican? No, dude. Didn't vote for Donald Trump. Didn't vote for Biden either because I didn't trust anybody. But you know what I mean? Maybe I'm just going to call you out for your bullshit. You know what I mean? And it's ridiculous that you're allowed to use an excuse that you're LGBTQ anytime you do something wrong. You literally have become just like a religious cult that religion likes to do. You know what I mean? You're just as bad. But the thing is, at least you're funny to laugh at because you think you're a fucking... God, you know, it's weird. I was talking to someone recently, and they said it had to have been a joke, but they said it wasn't a joke. They talked to someone who thinks that they're a helicopter. Is this a meme? They're like, I talked, and I was like, what do you mean they think they're a helicopter? And they're like, no, they think they're a machine, a helicopter. And I'm like, I don't get it. A helicopter? This has to be a meme, but they were dead. Maybe they were just trolling the person. They said, I'm a helicopter. But they were saying they're a helicopter. I guess I would have liked to meet this person in real life who thinks that they're a fucking helicopter. I've heard of like a helicopter parent, but what is a but then again, you have people that think, it's just, again, I think it's terrible to not want to be who you want to be. It's terrible. Like I said, this, basically famous girl I talked to, what I mean? I tell you, man, she has insane depression issues. She's never been who she's wanted to be, right? And the crazy thing is, like I said, she's not even accepted by the LGBTQ because she is so feminine. You know what I mean? Even before she transitioned, she was just a very, like a femboy, I guess, so to speak, right? You know what I mean? And she already looked like very feminine and gross even before she transitioned. And now she's, God, you know what I mean? She's more feminine looking, traditionally feminine looking than fucking a lot of 100% females, so to speak, right? And so, she's like, the community is toxic. I'm not even accepted by them, blah, blah, blah kind of thing, right? And the point is, again, it must suck to not be who you want to be, but that's not a transgender exclusive thing. That's not an LGBT exclusive thing. Yet they want you to believe it is. And they want you to believe you have to walk on eggshells and suck their dick. And if you don't respect them. And it's ridiculous. So, again, I was watching that Matt Walsh thing. And again, I don't agree with all the fucking, I started watching some other stuff. Too religious for me. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, if you watch some of that, it's just such proof positive that some of this shit is just, people are insane with it, dude. You know what I mean? You don't think you're a human being? Do you even consider yourself a human being? People are not capable of logical conversations. You know what I mean? And the whole thing, kid stuff with sex stuff. And it's just kind of like, man, geez, dude, people still think they're fucking Santa Claus, at that age. And I agree, that's a dicey road. And that gets into a whole nother topic, though. I mean, I could even talk about, especially depending on how worldly you are, you know what I mean? Because I think about, like, in America, they teach us sex ed at, like, 5th grade. But, people aren't having sex at 5th grade, but still. I remember being in 5th grade, you're, like, 9 or something, and you see sex for the first time, you're like, whoa. You know what I mean? Jesus Christ, I'm like 9 years old. This is what sex is? It was fucking, ooh. That's some crazy shit. I remember being 9 and thinking that was crazy shit. And you want to teach more sex stuff to someone younger than that? And it's pretty weird, right? But, speaking about worldly, I'm going off on a tangent here. If you have friends that are actually in other very religious countries and you have more open conversations with them, man, dude, it's like, makes me think like, man, what is even a healthy age to talk about sex with kids? Because, some of my more, Islamic friends and Muslim friends, again, if you're having honest conversations with them, if they're being open with you, a lot of them will tell you, oh, they don't teach us anything sexual whatsoever to a girl, during school. And supposedly the first time you're supposed to, find about sex is once you get married. But, now in today's internet age, I can't tell you how many times I've talked to, a Muslim girl, Islamic, whatever you want to say. It's like, oh, well, they don't teach us about sex, but everyone, right when we're a kid and we go on the internet and we find out about sex. We're watching porn like as a kid just to find out what it is, right? So, I guess that's like a whole nother can of worms. Like, I don't even know. I just think that's like, it like blows my brain, I guess, thinking, like, wow, man, I remember when I was growing up, the internet was around, but certainly the first time that, I heard about sex was like, 5th grade. Like, oh, that's how you have sex, right? But then you think like, man, they want to like actually teach it to people younger than that, all this kind of stuff. I'm just like, man, is that even... Oh God, I mean, I don't know. But then again, with the way the internet is, even when I guess I talk to Muslim countries, if you talk to someone that will have an honest conversation with you, they're like, oh yeah, they're not going to teach us it in school. So yeah, we look up porno at that age in the first place to find out what it is, because no one will even tell us anything. So then that makes you think, well, God, geez, I don't know. Fuck, dude, I don't know. The world is a crazy place. I guess I went off on a tangent. You know what I mean? But the point is, what is the difference between the overly radical LGBTQ and the overly radical right religious person? I guess the point is, one side you can at least laugh at because they don't even think they're a human being half the time and they're above everything. So at least one side is funny because they're so fucking stupid. And that's the too long didn't read, I guess. The end.